Hi and welcome to I Love Mondays. I'm Angela Ambrosia and this is part 3 of Choose the Relationship. So when we talk about choose the relationship, often when we're in a relationship, there's a difficulty to choose the relationship because we're so triggered emotionally by the relationship. And this is the mystery of relationships. If they're supposed to be so desirable and everybody wants to be in relationship or to have family or to have love, why are they so painful emotionally? So the key to understanding the painful parts of emotions is that when you ask about why are you in this relationship, you came to actually the relationship to learn how to accept those parts of yourself that may not be so palatable to you. There's parts of yourself that you may feel are unattractive. There's parts of yourself that you may have had an emotional judgment about. Last time we looked at our thought patterns. So underneath thought patterns or thought habits are often emotions. And the emotions have been created about fears about what we are, who we are, how we'll be accepted, how people will perceive us. And there's a fear that somehow we won't be good enough or we won't somehow be able to be accepted by the other person. But often that judgment and emotion that created the judgment or the judgment was created around came from some other experience that we had in our lives. It could be something as early as childhood. It could be in a previous relationship. So we all know that pattern, that there's a tendency to bring to the present relationship some of your problems from the previous relationship. And that's a drag. We always find it annoying that our partner might say something to us that we think, that's nothing to do with me. Why are you even bringing that up? But the reality is they're bringing it up because there's something inside of them which is fearful, and that there's been an emotion which they weren't able to handle, and now it's still there, it's unresolved, and it's coming back onto the present moment, and you happen to be in relationship with that person, so you get to experience. So if you see and understand emotions in that context, relationships have to bring up your old emotions, have to bring up your fears, and have to shine the light on those parts that you may not accept about yourself. So what are those parts you may not accept about yourself? Well, a lot of us have a lot of insecurities or judgments or fears about our personality. Our personality is something that we're born with and we create. So there's two elements to it. But we seem to get stuck as we create the personality. We get fearful that somehow it's defunct. There's something wrong with it, something not good enough or right about it. So there's so many aspects of the personality that you may not be complete with. And also when you're in a world with other people, there's a tendency to compare yourself to others. So always emotions and judgments around those emotions are made about whether you are like that person, better than that person, less than that person. And this is one of the key elements of emotion. If you accept that every one of us really just wants to be loved and wants to love, wants to give love, wants to experience love, then of course there will be differences. But essentially at the core, we want to love and to be loved. And beyond that, we are going to have 7 billion plus people on the planet with 7 billion plus differences in personality, abilities, bodies, different understanding of themselves, even different capabilities of understanding themselves. So beyond the emotions of whether you're good enough, if you can accept that there are going to be so many different varieties in the planet and there's no need for you to compete or compare beyond the fact that you just need to see what's actually coming up inside of you when you do go into comparison. So if you do have a tendency in your personality to see lack, or a tendency to see, well, that person has something and I don't, or why are they lucky and I'm not lucky? Why do they have a relationship and I don't have a relationship? And you start to feel inability or lack, or somehow there's something you're missing, that's a key sign to see that there's parts of yourself that you haven't been able to accept. And it doesn't mean that you just snap your fingers and go, well, I have to accept that part of myself. It actually is a lot more of a process of going in to feeling into the emotions and understanding what the emotions need to express or just simply experience. We don't need to be expressing our emotions out loud. We can just feel them internally. So today's energy transfer will be to help you see those parts that you may not be able to accept, and again create that heart space where you can begin to feel more and more and more of all the aspects of the self that want to come into one, into wholeness. A lot of this work that you're doing with opening and reprogramming the heart is really to accept those parts of yourself so you can become one being. And when you're one, you're still going to have emotions and you're still going to have thoughts, but they won't actually make you feel like you're missing something, or they won't feel like you're taking away. You'll be able to have the emotions and actually enjoy them, even the darker ones, or the ones that aren't so fun, or the ones that make you go into comparison with others. You'll be able to see, oh, okay, I'm actually just going into comparing, and start to see how you can start to bring a different space of acceptance to your habit or your fear, and allow it to just be. The power of allowing the emotions to just be is so powerful that it seems too simple. And a lot of meditation practices or spiritual teachers will tell you to just be with the emotion. So what does that actually mean? In some ways it can be quite simple, and for others of us it will mean we need to understand a little bit more of why we had a fear about a certain thing that happened in our life. But start with a simple level, which is just accepting that there's an emotion there and allowing it to be, so you can feel it without sensing that you have to push it away, or that there's something that you're less than or other than. If you have the less than or other than thoughts or feelings come up, I'm not this, I'm not that, what you can begin to do is ask. Ask for the space, compassion, the heart space, whatever you feel is your natural language, to be able to just be or see the emotion. Sometimes just seeing it is enough to allow it to feel that acceptance. And acceptance is the most powerful ability to develop when it comes to love and relationships. What happens when you bring in acceptance that creates an energy field for yourself and for the relationship that allows you to choose the relationship. So we're going to do that right now, create that energy space in our bodies and in our consciousness, so that you'll be able to tap back into that at any time you need to accept any parts of yourself that you may not be comfortable with. So begin by breathing into the chest and feeling the expansion of the front body. With the breath, you can actually start to feel how the lungs also sit on each side of the heart space, which is in the center of the chest. So allow the breath to expand into the lungs. And already just by breathing, you're already connecting to that heart space. Then when you're ready, closing the eyes and noticing with your eye gaze how you can bring your awareness and your focus into the center of the chest. Allowing your internal gaze to also expand you internally. So you begin to explore the inside of the body, almost like it's a breath-filled paradise. So your breath is allowing you to explore all those parts of your body that need more breath. Breathing into any areas that may feel tight, or perhaps any areas that you may just want to expand more. Notice if you want to take the breath into the back body and the back shoulder blades. And then play with bringing the breath into the brain. So we expressed an interest in the cavities of the brain in a few episodes ago of Choose the Relationship. So you can actually use your imagination to allow the breath to expand into the brain. And the brain organ itself has these beautiful fluids that's suspended in the cavity there. So there's actual space around the organ of the brain itself. So with your imagination, bring the breath into that cavity around the brain, almost as if you could lift the brain with that in-breath. And as you exhale, you can begin to see or feel the brain floating and descending a little bit. So with every in-breath, expanding into that brain. And as you exhale, feeling the brain just gently bob or descend. So now you have the two areas of the brain and the heart space coming into synchronicity with the breath. As you breathe in, you're expanding that heart space, and you're also lifting and expanding into the cavity of the brain. And as you exhale, you're gently relaxing that heart space, and the cavity of the brain is also allowing the brain to descend or suspend in time and space. So from this place, ask for your higher self to make a connection with you. Ask for the higher self to come in very closely into the body so you can experience it even physically, very viscerally with you right now. And that higher self for some of us may be a physical presence, and it may for some of us take a while to feel that connection to a higher self. But by asking for the connection, you simply enhance and make that connection exist. So the higher self will always be free of judgment, will always be able to accept you. If at any time you find that you have judgments, criticism, self-doubt, these are all examples that you're not operating from the higher self. The higher self is really interested in your highest growth, so your spiritual growth. And the higher self is not really going to pay attention to those negative emotions. The only reason the higher self wants to engage with the emotions is to understand yourself better and to see any parts of yourself that you may need to have acceptance for. So ask for that support from the higher self now to see any parts of yourself that need acceptance. Notice if there's any parts of your body that may be triggered just by asking for that acceptance. We also make judgments about our physical body from the personality. But the higher self chose that body for specific reasons. So you could learn certain things through resistance and also through things that are easy. So sometimes we resist those things that seem hard. So notice if there are any hard thoughts or fears or judgments. And for anything that you find is hard or has a heavy feeling to it emotionally, ask, what is it that I need to see in order to accept this part of myself? And now that you may have some awareness about some aspect of yourself that needs more acceptance or to be accepted, you can also ask, do I need to understand what I need to accept? Or do I need to just see? So ask if there is some more understanding that is required in order for you to accept that part of yourself. And if there is nothing more that you need to understand, then just continue to ask, please show me or let me see, what is it that I need to accept? We don't always need to understand in order to accept those parts of ourselves. Sometimes we just need to see. And now find a way that that part of yourself can actually receive light. So you can visualize that part of yourself as a picture. If it was a moment in your life where you had a strong fear or there was a judgment made because you were hurt in a relationship, perhaps a past breakup or a bad experience, see a moment that you can hold in your mind, an image where you made an emotional judgment and got hurt. And then ask for that hurt to receive light and acceptance and love. And visualize literally the golden light coming into the image, embracing and folding and holding that image until it is fully penetrated by the golden light. All of us have the desire to be loved and to love. So at this moment, ask, what is it at that point where you had the fear or emotion? What is it that you desired? Maybe you just desired to be loved, or you wanted to be accepted for the fact of how you wanted to love that other person. So just see that image of yourself or that part of yourself receiving the love that it desired to give or to receive. You can visualize yourself being embraced or held or just happy. And every time that you acknowledge yourself for facing your emotions or seeing your emotions, you can give thanks. Give thanks to yourself for creating this space to see what needs more acceptance or just to be felt and experienced. So give that gratitude to yourself. Visualize yourself hugging yourself, or just experience a smile in your body. And when you're ready, with the breath, experience that smile throughout the breath, moving up and down the body. So you can allow the breath to really expand into a smile energetically. It's like you're smiling all over your entire body. And a smile doesn't have to be a facial smile or a grin. It can actually feel like you're smiling at yourself, like you've had a joke with yourself and you're having a little laugh, a little chuckle. Just seeing that you had this emotion and now you're able to smile at it, knowing that it's something that you can handle and you can accept. And then visualize the breath coming all the way from the top of the body and down into the feet, moving through the pelvis, grounding you into the earth. And when you're ready, just coming into the room and your body, experiencing that inner smile coming in from the inside, being able to create that space. Whenever you connect to something like an inner smile through asking for it while you're in meditation, what you do is you actually generate a place of just simple acceptance, from a place of just smiling about it. Often when we have emotions, we get too wrapped up in the circularity of the emotion. So it's very healthy to create a new way of being with that emotion in a quiet space internally. I'm Angela Ambrosia. Thank you for joining I Love Mondays, Choose the Relationship, Part 3. And we'll be back for Part 4 when we look at our body. Often when we choose the relationship instead of our needs, our physical body can sense that it's compromised or not right. So we're going to look at how the physical body is a very strong clue about boundaries, about giving too much or not receiving enough. And this is why in choosing the relationship, you do want to have a very good awareness of your own body, because if you do feel like it's being compromised, there's something going on that needs to be brought awareness to in order for the relationship to grow and continue. Thank you and have a blessed week.